Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Activities for People Living at Home with Dementia. We are proud to offer this series with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and the United Way of Tarrant County. These programs are recorded and are made available for viewing through a YouTube channel for future use. I am your host for today's activities. It is my distinct pleasure to present Peggy Spear from the Amon Carter Museum of American Art. Peggy is bringing stars to us today. And Peggy, we want to see what stars you brought. And good morning, Janine and John.
And Peggy is our star.
Peggy is our star. Yes, Steve, thank you.
The stars are bright.
Yeah.
Deep in the
Look at different
heart.
pictures of my life. Hold on. Wrong thing.
I've done the wrong thing a time or two.
Man, I'll tell you. I think by now I'd have the swing of Zoom. Okay. So I mentioned as I was signing off last week, because I think it was Yetta asked, what are we talking about when we talk about stars? In our collection, we have a variety of star portrayals. And so whether it's tied to a flag or tied to a religion or tied to just the heavens, there's a number of ways stars have appeared in art history since the beginning of art. So while we don't go back to the beginning of art here at this museum, we're going to look at what we've got in our collection in different mediums. So the first one, actually, we're going to be looking at all prints. So I don't have any paintings. None of these are on view right now. But the first one we're looking at is called Freedom Now. What do you see?
2 stars.
You see how many stars?
Yeah, 2 stars.
2. Yep, 2 stars.
And I see the letter A.
Yep.
I see Lisa.
USA.
U.S.
Ah,
Oh, okay.
Okay, USA.
USA. Okay, yeah.
That makes more sense than Lisa.
Those letters are a little more difficult to see.
SA, yeah.
In the top right-hand corner, it looks like there's a Ku Klux Klan head shroud.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm. But also a person.
Or a person.
Then
In
the
the upper
Ku-
left-hand corner, looks like a person looking down.
Oh,
Yeah. But I see a person in the right-hand corner, and then the Ku Klux Klan hat on the back of him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Burning cross back there.
Mhm.
Oh, there is a little
Wow.
cross.
Man, Phil, did you look at my notes?
Very observant.
Are hitting it on the head. So this particular artist was in 1963 working at Ole Miss. He was a professor at the University of Mississippi. And it was the start of not the start, but we were in the throes of civil rights war, basically, in the United States. And he created a number of paintings and prints in 1963 that took the Confederate flag or other American symbols like the flag and started putting words on top of them that were surrounded to these civil rights protests and segregationists, things that were calling to light and putting into under the microscope what was happening, especially in Mississippi at this time. So while this particular print was not made with that series, he made it the following year at Tamarind, that studio that we've talked about in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And he's still very much thinking about what United States looked like at that time in a segregated United States that was trying to heal. And so those types of imagery, I don't know exactly if he was meaning to have it look like a burning cross or have it look like the hood of a Klansman. But this was what he was talking about. And so good on you for seeing automatically that jumped out at you, this two different types of America. I mean, it feels segregated even within this print. What makes it feel like there's a segregation?
The separation between freedom and now.
Yeah, the line, the white line.
Yes, the white line.
Mhm.
Freedom and now, this idea of freedom now in 1963, speaking to the people of color who were still in a form of enslavement because they were not given the equal rights that white people were given.
Mhm.
It says, USA, but that U and the S are kind of covered. So is that is he commenting on how united are we?
It
Yeah.
could have been
Not,
Lisa. It could have been Lisa.
right. Lisa. So the series of work he did when he was at Ole Miss was really a social protest in a pacifist type of way through art, using recognizable symbols. There are stars on the Confederate flag, there are stars on the United States of America flag. And he ended up actually getting arrested for desecration of the Confederate flag.
Wow.
Is he African American, the artist?
No, he's a white male.
Okay.
So
Why was it illegal to do something to a Confederate flag?
Yeah, I don't know much about it, especially in Mississippi. I'm not sure.
It was still, I think it was still part of the state flag in
Oh,
Mississippi
okay, yeah.
at that point.
I know there's been some talk about it in the last year or so about, especially after the Black Lives Matter movement, if the flag, the Confederate flag, I think it was actually voted to not be the state flag anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But when the artist created the print of series that was at Ole Miss, and then this was stuff he did about the following year, which was still very fresh in his mind and in the country's eye. I just lost my train of thought. Oh, he ended up he was really proud of this work, and he doubled down on the meaning of it. He did not at all apologize for offending the segregationists, but he felt that this was really important work that he was doing, and maintained that through his whole life. He ended up teaching. He was very well educated, kind of all over the country, and then he was teaching at California State University, Fullerton, for a very long time, and he retired in 2002. So this work meant a lot to him. He was using stencils, which were popular given what's his name? Jackson Pollock. He had used stencils, and other ABEX artists at the time. And then when he was at Ole Miss, he was there for when the first Black student started,
Okay.
and was reacting to what he witnessed when he was there.
Hmm.
So it's a beautiful artwork. I guess to some people like Phil, you could already see the political implication it had. But for those who don't see the political implication, it still is all of the American things we know: freedom and USA and stars and red, white, and blue. So it has that patriotic feel on the surface, but there seems to be a little more to it.
Yeah.
It looks like it was created to be a protest sign.
It has that feel to it. What parts of it make it feel kind of like a protest sign?
The fact that the blue is, it looks, until you look at the detail, it looks to be slapdash and splatter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it was made in a hurry to get out on the street with your sign.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. And the size of it itself has that poster board feel to it. It's 22 inches by 30 inches. So it has a pretty sturdy presence.
Wow.
Peggy, in that right above the right-hand side of freedom, in that block there, that looks to me as if a man is standing there looking down at somebody's corpse.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that looks like, I get that too, Phil.
Yeah, I see it.
See, the man's keeping me down.
Oh, wow. My goodness, were you guys political activists in your day?
We were the right
Telling you,
decades.
No.
You guys
I was
are
an
doing all
engineer.
sorts of things.
Only in our old age.
At old age.
I can tell you a personal experience of Mississippi. In
Please.
1965, I was going to school in Biloxi, Mississippi, Air Force training down there. And it was at the time shortly after the Montgomery protests and Martin Luther King being in jail. And there were 4 of us from Chicago in our class. 2 of us were white and 2 were African American. I was the only one that had a car. So when we graduated, we were all going on leave and going back to Chicago. So I said, well, why don't we all ride together and split the gas? Well, when I went to pick up the guys in the morning, us 2 white guys were in shorts and t-shirts, and the 2 black guys came out in their Class A uniforms.
Oh,
And I'm like, what are you guys doing in your Class A? He says, well, we're going to wear them until we get out of Mississippi.
there you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And
wow.
and we left and drove up and it got to Jackson and it needed to stop and get gas and take a pit stop. And we pulled in and we all got out of the car. And the gas station attendant, owner, manager, I don't know who he was, came out and immediately started, yelling at us, saying all kinds of offensive things to the black guys. And they were not going into his gas station and using the facilities. If they had to use anything, they could go out behind it and there was a tree they could go up against.
Oh, my word.
And I was like, I was furious.
Yeah.
And I was going to go after him, and one of the black guys just grabbed me, pulled me back, says, take it easy, Phil. Let's just get gas and get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
But that experience has stayed with me
Oh, I can imagine.
a long time.
Wow. What a powerful story.
Mhm.
Well, then that makes a lot more sense as someone who spent time in Mississippi
Yeah.
and had friends who were Black, the power that this artwork had then.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to lighten the mood a little bit.
Okay.
And we're gonna look at another lithograph created at Tamarin of just stars in the night sky. Initial reactions. What do you think?
It almost looks like fireworks.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
I see a bluebird,
Right here.
the big bluebird. Uh-huh.
You do.
I think
I saw that as a big blue whale somehow in the sky.
It could be a whale. It could be
Or
a
a
whale.
lake.
I thought it was the lake.
yeah. Well, if there's fireworks, it could be any sort of explosion that was blue.
Oh, yeah, an explosion. Well, the title of this is called Nights of Travel That Flew with Stars. And it's a night scene. It's a nightscape. I get the impression that we are down on ground level. We're looking up and we can see the trees which line the bottom third.
Mhm.
And then we continue to look up and we're seeing, I think he includes the blue to denote the sky.
Yeah.
And then it's using gold and black for the stars. But you get the feel of that cloudiness, almost like it's a cloudy night.
Yeah.
That you couldn't see the stars if that were the case, but it's very moody. This is a very moody sky.
So is the blue meant to be sky?
I think it's meant to tell us, the viewer, that it's sky, it's the night sky.
Good.
But
thinking.
I don't think it's meant to be a break in the clouds and we're seeing the blue sky, because the stars are in front of the clouds.
Okay.
So I think it's more of just you're seeing the darkness and you're seeing the blue and you're seeing the gold. So using the color to signify or to indicate what we're looking at.
Could be a supernova.
Right. Yeah.
Supernova, yeah.
A bunch of supernovas.
Or it could be a portal to another universe.
That's right, a wormhole.
Wormhole. Yeah.
So we've looked at particular other prints from this particular series. If you might remember this one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this one.
Oh, yes.
Yes, yeah.
This is he has 21 prints in this particular series reflecting different lines from a poem that Sean had found when he was in Paris. He found a poetry book by an Austrian poet who wrote this poem called For the Sake of a Single Verse when he was 28. And Sean found this poem when he was 28. So he felt a connection to this particular poem. And the line that he's referencing here, well, we can go back. It says, and quiet mornings by the sea, to the sea itself, to seas, to nights of travel that rushed along on high and flew with all the stars. And it is not yet enough of if one may think of all this. So this is these prints follow each other in succession within the artwork or within the series. And the poem itself is talking more generally about the lessons of humility, that you can't write about something if you haven't lived something yet. So he references, I've read the poem, I think most of it's in the entirety, but talking about all of the things we take for granted, for, the sun, the sea, the animals, the sky, all of those things, when you live them, they start to form memories in your mind of what that actually means to you. So while it's kind of mundane, it's the importance of the experiences lived with them.
A little like counting our blessings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the name of the poem, Peggy?
For a Single Verse by a poet named Rilke.
Ooh, he's the one who wrote The Tiger. Rilke, R-I-L-K-E, Rilke.
R-I-L-L-K. Is it K-E or K? It looks like A. R-I-L-K-A, I think is his name.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Rainier is his first name. I don't know.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I just didn't know how to spell his last name. Thank you.
Of course. And yeah, so this poem is really a beautiful poem if you want to give it a Google. But it's For the Sake of a Single Verse.
I find that just very soothing to look at.
Do you?
Yes.
What about it?
It's just calm and blissful, I guess.
Yeah. Familiar to me. It feels very, like you said, soothing. I mean, and it's the same kind of thing with his key. And this is a little more concrete than some of the other pictures in the series. But there's a soothingness to this the same way there is.
Yes.
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 All right, so we're leaving the heavens in the heavens, and we're moving now to another print by a man who was really interested in American Indian folklore. And this particular print is called Manitou Comes Out of Asia. What details do you notice first?
Well, I see a headdress.
Headdress, yep.
The bow.
The bow.
Yes, a fanny pack.
Travels efficiently.
The star,
Oh.
A car?
the stars.
Oh, the stars. Yes.
Stars.
Yes, the stars. So I'm not sure how versed some of you are in American Indian folklore, but Manitou it started out of the Algonquin, the Iroquois nations. There's 5 in the Iroquois nations. As sort of the Manitou is not so much a god as it is a supernatural power that exists everywhere in the world. So it's a supernatural spirit that permeates, and basically that's what was this God was assigned for things that could not be explained. It's just the presence that is everywhere. And so often, as is depicted in, and this is not an American Indian depicting this, he is not any nation, he's white. Or often in American Indian folklore, gods are assigned a body, even though they are not perceived in the world as a body. They are perceived more as an overarching presence. But in way to depict them in art, they're often given a body. So here, he's given a body, and he's given the war bonnet that someone pointed out. And then the length and beauty of a war bonnet, the bigger it is, the more respected it may be. So this is what would have been a very beautiful and elaborate headpiece, but we just are seeing the outlines of the feathers, very abstracted. And he's got the bow again. He's a warrior. He's someone who is skilled. He doesn't quite have a face. We see details of a face, but
It looks like a bear.
You see a bear?
Yeah, in his face.
Right here?
Yeah,
No,
the
I thought
eye
he
and the
was-
ear and
Ear, yep.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yes, he has anthropomorphic shape to him. We see the animal ears, and even what might contribute to it is that brown that we're kind of seeing. He has what might be an animal pelt on him, or something that's part human, part animal, which again speaks to this overwhelming presence of Manitou. But then he's standing on the earth, but his body is in the heavens, in the sky. And often the stars, the sky is depicted as that liminal space between humanity and godliness. And so we're seeing a lot of sky with this particular God as probably a nod to this man, or this presence is on the earth, but lives larger than all of us in the heavens.
oh, okay.
Yeah, according to
Hmm?
I looked online that Manitou basically was a supernatural being that controlled nature.
Yeah.
So it's very positive because you see the stars and everything. So he would be the person, and basically it's the headdress would represent a chief, a person of importance,
Yes.
and so basically power, representing power.
Yes.
Yeah, you
And
probably
so-
said that all before. My brain just didn't connect.
No. Thank you. I'm glad you said it in another way. That's exactly it. So and he's a larger than life person. I mean,
Yeah.
he's almost as large as the sky,
Yeah,
which speaks to that omnipresence that would have existed. I'm not sure. I could not find anything that says, in the title says comes out of Asia. I'm not sure directly what the artist was meaning with that. There are some schools of thought that trace American Indians coming from Asia through the Bering Strait and then coming down North America that way. So
Yeah.
that might be, it's tied to Asia, but I could not find specifically what that reference was.
right. I
In
don't know.
Colorado, there's a place called Manitou Springs.
Right.
Yep. And so this is an interesting knowledge or fact for me. My thesis, I went to graduate school at the University of Denver, and my thesis work was on the Ute Indians.
Ooh.
And that's Colorado is a lot of Ute Indians, Ute, Paiute, Southern Ute, all that is in that area. Those Plains Indians and nomadic Indians didn't necessarily subscribe to Manitou, that particular god, as much as the Algonquin, the Ojibwe, a lot of the ones around the Great Lakes. Those were the ones that really believed in, or really spoke to the Manitou mythology. Not to say that that didn't trickle through other nations as time went on and things like that, but I wondered if Manitou Springs had ties then to some of those more northern tribes that might have.
Well, part of it is because Manitou Springs has some cliff dwelling.
And there's a lot of natural, I think natural springs
Yeah.
in that area as well, caves and things like that. So anyway, stars, and you'll see stars in Navajo folklore, in Hopi and Anasazi folklore. You'll see, and I mean, if you think about it, American Indians, all they were looking to was the sky for their type of entertainment in a lot of ways. You know, at night, they were very aware of celestial beings and supernovas and the equinoxes and things like that. So the sky in American Indian art, you will see over and again, stars, other suns, other things. See, Steve,
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye, Steve.
Bye.
do you guys like this artwork? Is it too abstract?
No, I like it.
No?
I would like looking at it in the museum, but I wouldn't want it in my home.
Okay.
So how big is this, Peggy?
This particular one, it's not huge. It's 9 by 6 inches. This is the smallest one artwork we're looking at today.
Oh,
So it's not massive.
Mm-mm.
We've got one more. This one is pretty big for what it is. It's 22 by 17 inches. Again, it's a lithograph. I don't believe that this was made at, oh no, this was made at Tamarind. So this is another Tamarind artwork called Untitled, the Shtetl.
mhm.
And I'm not, does anyone know Yiddish? Does anyone know what Shtetl translates to?
Town.
Say that again? Fountain?
Town.
Town.
Oh, town. Yes, yes, town. And
Star of David.
yes, that's our star. This is our religious star in this particular one, the Star of David. And
Sweet.
there seems to be some
Little
Shtetl.
village. Yeah.
writing. So
That's
this-
Hebrew.
yeah, this is in Hebrew and the title is in Yiddish. So the artist himself was American. His parents were immigrants from Romania and Ukraine, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
And they lived in a shtetl, a version of a shtetl when they were living in Europe. And then the shtetl, it's a very long historied word. It at its surface means town. Because of how that word was used, it often associates a Jewish town. Before World War II, that word was used for a lot of little Jewish pockets of communities in these Eastern European countries.
Yeah.
So the connotation is really tied to a Jewish town, but in the etymology of the word, it once just meant town, a small village. So here, though, in this series, the artist, this is one of several in a series that he made at Tamarind, depicting different Jewish day-to-day life. And here you can see they're Ashkenazi Jews. So you can see a father and a son seeming to be leaving their town.
The father is wearing a prayer shawl.
Yeah,
It's under his coat.
you're right. Good eye.
Mhm. And I bet that inside that package is some bread.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
And
That's a Martha guess.
Martha Hope. I hope
Yes.
it's good. Bring some good bread. He was Jewish himself, and he was raised in New York City. And he was a cartoonist and a painter. And a lot of his he was good at art early on, and then a lot of his artwork started, or he was accused then of being a communist during the Red Scare. And as a result, he ended up continuing to draw and paint political, socioeconomic, scrutinized situations and things like that. So this was painted much later in his career, or printed much later in his career. but it was sticking to these themes of social justice, communities that might have been targeted or ostracized or things like that. But again, the Star of David is very prominent, and the Star of David again has had one of those histories that the star has taken on different meanings in different countries, and but in modern history, the Star of David is associated with the sign of Judaism.
Yeah.
Peggy, what are they doing, those people to the right? Are they loading a wagon or
It
what?
looks like they're loading a wagon. It looks like he has a bundle of wood under
Wood.
him.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what's going on to the left over there?
With the
With
ladder.
the ladder, the tray.
That it looks like that's kind of a maybe a house of some sort, or some sort of complex. But there's a person holding a large bowl in their hand.
Okay.
It's a person standing with a big bowl. And so other artworks in this, other prints in the series shows a Jewish man in a tailor shop mending clothing. It's the day-to-day work that was happening in the shtetl.
That's very descriptive. And
So,
did you
and
say
not all of them have the Star of David in it, but this one was a very obvious star that created after World War II, when the star was used. I mean, the Jewish communities had to wear them on their clothing, around Europe. It was a very loaded symbol.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Say the size of this again, please.
Oh, this one is 22 by 30, so another large print.
Oh, okay.
And many museums across the country have an edition of this.
Fascinating.
All right, so those are our stars. We were kind of all over the map with them today, but all prints. And next week, we're back with, Martha?
Abstract.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. I got some good ones. Janine, I was thinking of you as I was picking them. We've got all different things happening this time. I hope all of you have a good week. And I will
Thank
see
you,
next week
too.
with Abstraction.
Miss Peggy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Peggy.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.